Yo, what's going on, fight fans, wrestling fans, and all combat sports fans alike? My name is Van Dam. This is my boy Grind, and this is the Lower Mid Card Fight Club podcast. And we are live right here with you guys today, talking to you about so many different things. WrestleMania.
WrestleMania. Yes, man.
Yep.
We are
WrestleMania was crazy. 2-night event.
we are focused on the premium of pro wrestling, man. This is the cream of the crop, as the Macho Man would say. This is the Super Bowl for us soap opera fans. Man, listen, if you like meaty men slapping other meaty men, if you like the dream teams that you looked up to as a kid, this is where they all come together and they make their name and they make an impact that will last a lifetime. So, WrestleMania 41 is in the books. We had night 1 and night 2, which were both insane for multiple reasons. A lot of stories that have now ended, a lot of stories that have come to a close, and some stories that have started, which is pretty darn interesting going into the new quote-unquote season of pro wrestling. This is the first ever WrestleMania that went worldwide because of Netflix. Now,
Right.
in the US, we get it on Peacock, but the rest of the world gets it on Netflix. So this is truly the first ever time it has been a worldwide event that everyone can get their hands on. And so my generation, our kids' generation, are seeing something very special. And 10 years from now, it's going to be even bigger than it currently is. Now, with that being said, I don't know how it can get any better. But here I am, a middle-aged man, and I've recognized, I've seen Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've seen The Rock. I've seen The Undertaker. I lived in that generation. I saw NWO and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it all.
We saw it all. Now, there's something special going on, and they've really taken kayfabe and reality and mixed it together and blended it into this beautiful thing that we call pro wrestling. There was this really weird period about 10 years ago where it was the PG era and it was sports entertainment. But I feel like we can now definitely call it wrestling again. And it is, if you like soap operas and you want to see meaty men slap meaty men, do things that are as close to watching superheroes in a Marvel movie, this is pretty much it,
Right.
So,
yeah, and the storylines are great. Like I've gotten, like we said before in previous podcasts, I've gotten so much more back into it now that I think honestly because of all the social media era too, because we have everything's on TikTok, everything's on Instagram Reels. You just see clip after clip, and I got more into it. Like I was telling you, I think it was a couple podcasts ago that I got so much into following like the Bloodline storyline for so long and everything else, and then. So now I'm just invested. Man.
Right. I think that's the thing that
I'm a huge Jey Uso fan now.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to be, but I'm a huge Jey Uso fan now.
But I think that's the thing. That's the thing with social media is, and I think it's always kind of been that way. It's just social media kind of amplified it where it's like you want to go for the ride that everybody else is going for. When you see people on social media, you see the way they're reacting, you see what's happening, you want to be in on the know of like why that is the way it is. And then once you actually take a step back and you go, okay, yes, it's predetermined. We know that, right? Like you start. I found a different love for it as an adult. Like the love is just like I said, the storytelling. As a kid, it was it was so much more. It was everything.
It's a grown man soap opera.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is. And I used to make fun of my mom about watching her stories. Watching soap operas, watching.
Yes.
Now I'm like.
The Hallmark Channel, dude.
I did that shit as a kid, watching the Attitude Era. I'm like, I get it now.
Well,
I get why she did it.
And with that being said, we have so many stories. So let's just get into night 1, where they literally started off WrestleMania 41 as big as you could potentially start it off. Now, I will say this: in previous years, Brock Lesnar, who I love dearly, as everyone knows, He is the GOAT for he's the original guy who would hold a championship belt and start the pay-per-view off with the title match, the championship match. This was unheard of. It never happened at WrestleMania before him. And so now it's become like a trend, and it's a good way to start off the show, because the show is 2 nights long now. It at one point was only one night, and it was condensed of like 4 hours long and whatnot, and it was just too much.
It was too much. It was way too much.
Now they can tell the stories with ease, and they can start it off on a just like flip of a switch and really go for it. And that's exactly what they did. The opening match was between Gunther, the heavyweight champion of the world, versus Jey Uso for the championship. And it was a back and forth, brutal slobber knocker, as JR would say. Gunther just being one of the best technical wrestlers, old school style wrestler that is in the game currently, man. A few years ago, we got to see him in a triple threat with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, and it was a meaty men slap fest, right? And that was the point where I kind of fell in love with Gunther and his character. Over the years, he became the longest reigning 666 days, little demonic Intercontinental champion. But his reign as a heavyweight world champion, he's no slouch in that department, and he's definitely one who carried the belt very well. What's interesting about this match, though, is what he did leading up to this match, and he brutalized Jimmy Uso weeks before.
Right.
Gunther's storytelling is just on a different level because he is a practitioner of sports entertainment. He a practitioner of wrestling, right? So watching Jey Uso do what Jey Uso did and inevitably use the sleeper hold, which Gunther had put so many people to sleep, using his own, watching Jey use Gunther's own move on him was just the perfect way to close out and become the new heavyweight champion of the world.
Right. And I think the big thing was for me too, is watching the ending of that match. A lot of people were skepticizing it and like talking down upon it when you look at it after night one, because of the fact they said, oh, Gunther kind of tapped out way too fast. Like the way he had shown his storytelling throughout everything he did in the past couple of years, like he was that tough, rugged guy. He wasn't going to tap. I feel like, to me, it ended the right way. I do kind of agree with some people that I feel like it should have been fought off a little bit longer at the end of it.
Yes.
My opinion, I feel like it was just too quick. Like, as soon as Jey gets it in and wraps it up, it was like, okay, we're done.
But
you know what I mean?
But I think that shows that Gunther has weaknesses, and that he's this tough shell, but he's like an onion, dude. We haven't seen every layer that is Gunther. And
right.
Sometimes it is interesting and it makes it more relatable when the most evil guy, the bad guy, has the silliest flaw, right? And so I think it's funny because he would put all these people out, and the whole thing was, I believe, that Jey Uso, he never tapped or something. They had a match previous to this, and I believe that the whole idea was that Jey Uso never tapped, and so Gunther tapping, especially tapping fast, plays into that narrative, like that Gunther is not, or Gunther is human, right? That Gunther does have weaknesses, and he does have chinks in his armor, kind of a thing. Jey Uso was able to bring him down to kind of a reality level. I would say some people thought for sure that Gunther was going to be one of the longest reigning champions just because of the way he carries himself and whatnot. And I think that's something that a lot of people who hold championships don't have, that mystique, right? Gunther has that mystique. And so going into this match and then after the match even, the question is what's next for Gunther, because he's done it all. He's been the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. He's he had a very long reign with the World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah.
However, he does have some chinks in his armor. And the thing is, he goes out as a heel. So Jey Uso being the good guy and winning and having and being so over with the fans, man. He is so popular.
100%.
Yeah. It is one of the coolest things to watch because it reminds me so much of the Yes movement in like 2010 with Daniel Bryan.
Yep.
But way cooler. Like
I miss Daniel Bryan. I do. Miss
I never liked
really?
that. I hated that dude. I didn't at that point in wrestling. That's the PG era to me. I hated that stuff.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, yeah.
But Jey Uso, I'll tell you right now, man, it makes it so much cooler, dude. He rocks those arenas, and it's just.
I think for him, if they wouldn't have came up with that concept of doing the whole yeet movement thing and everything else, I don't think you have that same.
No, you don't.
Like,
the trajectory, right?
No.
But you got to remember. You got to remember this though, man. Like he came up as Roman Reigns' right hand man. And so there was a point where Jimmy got hurt years ago and he had a feud with Roman that lasted pretty much through the entire bloodline off and on. But it gave Jay a lot of time to figure out who he was as a single star. And so that is really why I believe Jay broke out as a single star, was because Jimmy got hurt. So Jay had to do what was best for Jay. And then he was also under the learning tree of Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. So
right,
he molded himself.
Well, and the way they mold it too to help him with the bloodline, the secondary part of the bloodline story. Yeah, with all this, like, just his trajectory just went flying.
Oh, exactly.
From there on. And then but the yeet movement.
Yeah,
bro, you got me over here every time it happened, just sitting me and Grayson just going like,
yeah, dude.
I'm like,
what's funny about these guys, these Fatus, is they're all Bay Area guys, and it's so weird. There's this thing called the hyphy movement, and you can see a little bit.
Yeah, that's been around since we were like,
right, but it's very California Bay Area driven.
Oh yeah,
and you see it in these guys like Jacob Fatu. He does yada da ming, he does that whole thing, and so it's like, bro, that's Bay Area. And what's funny is Jay, I believe he's San Francisco native, so it's a really cool thing. I will truly say that I root for him every time he goes out there. I wish there was a little more range, obviously, in their move set. Their move set is very, I mean, they all do the spear at this point. It's like, God, dude, and they have some cool little aspects, but I think
the cool thing about that though too is like there's some cons and some pros to it.
True.
The cool thing about that is like it literally, they're keeping up with the concept from the early 80s Samoans all the way through.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I like seeing like the little nitpicks here and there of different moves that have gone throughout the generations of the Samoan era and that bloodline. And but there are some cons to it too. Like you said, I would love to see more range in their movement and doing different stuff.
There's just so many of them. I mean, there are so many of them that they all kind of feed off each other movement wise. And so they're like last year, we weren't talking about Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso. They had their match and it was just a super kick fest. That was one of the most boring matches of all time. And it wasn't because of the two people that was in the ring. It was just like 5 minutes in, they had run out of moves. Like it was just like, what are we doing?
So when I think super kick though, man, I think Shawn Michaels. That's what it kills me. It's like super kick to me was always the Shawn Michaels thing. And then all of a sudden I start seeing the Usos do it. I start seeing, Jacob, all these guys start doing it. I'm like, it doesn't it's not like something that came from like the Samoan bloodline. It was always a Shawn Michaels thing.
And that's the problem, man, is a lot of the moves that were used in our generation, they have become recycled them. But the thing is they've lost a lot of their power and meaning. They become, instead of like special signature moves, they become like just a go-to move. And Shawn Michaels used to tune up the band, right? That was the whole thing.
Yep.
He'd sit in the corner.
Chin music,
baby. And it was a beautiful thing. So when Jay does it or Jimmy does it, it's more of just a move set, which is fine. But when you, like I said, in that match, it didn't go very well. And sometimes,
oh my gosh, it was like 30 of them.
But you know what I will say about Gunther and Jay is that Gunther was able to mask that, right? I never felt at any point in time during this match between Jay and Gunther that Jay was overdoing, those moves or overselling a certain move. So
that speaks to Gunther as a
100%. Yeah. So great World Heavyweight Championship match. Great way to start off WrestleMania, and it could only go up or down from there, right? Follow that was the only, before we get into this, I'll include this, I guess. Following that is the World Tag Team Championship match. Now, this is out of the 2 tag team championships that we have, only one was shown on WrestleMania. Why that is, I'm not sure. I will say that it is disappointing time and time again to see these PLE events, the premium live events, and to see tag team champions not being so favored. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe there's a demographic of people who just turn off the TV when they see a tag team match, but it seems to be that most PLEs are all singles matches or for singles titles. They're not typically tag team championship matches. So we got one this year, but I would have liked to see both of them on the WrestleMania card, considering we had 2 nights and we did not get that. With that being said, it was the World Tag Team Championship match between the War Raiders versus the New Day. Now, the New Day has turned a new leaf and they've become a heel. They've got new walkout music. They've turned their back against their old partner Big E, or I guess in their eyes, Big E turned his back against them, kind of a thing, because he's no longer wrestling. He's retired. And the War Raiders put on a pretty good showing with the New Day. The New Day ended up playing a little dirty and getting the win. And I believe they are they hold the record for the most tag team championships in history now. They are the GOATs.
I think I heard him say something about that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
They're not.
I don't know, man. That match wasn't super like. I like the whole them like becoming heel thing and everything, but at the same time, I'm like, that match wasn't anything special to me.
No,
it was like when you think tag team matches for WrestleMania, and this is just me going back again to our age. I think tag team matches like the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so
you're right. Those tag teams were a different breed and they had character. Yeah. The New Day is no longer the New Day. They've been around for they've been around for a decade, and even though it may be a New Day and they're the bad guys and whatnot, they're not interesting. I don't care to, I'm not going to go buy their t-shirt. I'm definitely now not going to go buy their t-shirt. Maybe when they were selling pancakes and that kind of stuff.
I was really only a fan of them when it first started with those 3. And the biggest reason why I became a fan of them is because of Big E, just because he played at the University of Iowa. I'm an Iowa native. It's my favorite freaking college team. So that was the only reason I really got into it. I'm like, oh, Big E, and then he'd come back. I'm like,
And now he's gone. And now he's gone. Yeah. So Yeah, they did their thing. They got booed. I wouldn't say that they have heat on them. I would say that just nobody cares. But it was on the card. Maybe that's why the tag team championship matches are really startling, because if that's the best of the best, I can see why, the other one didn't make it on to either night.
I would like to see Kofi Kingston go solo again.
I'd like to see him retire.
Really? I mean,
I'm not interested in Kofi Kingston, dude. Like he's been around forever. I don't need to see him as a Jamaican, bobsledder.
That's like Carlito. That's like fucking Carlito coming back.
Yeah, you know what's so funny about Carlito coming back?
I didn't know when Carlito came back though. I was kind of like, oh man,
yes. For 5 minutes, and then you recognize it's Carlito, and you're like, dude, choose an apple, and it sits in the back of the Judgment Day the entire time, and he's not done anything. But he does do house shows, and it is pretty interesting. One of the last house shows I went to, he was there and he spit an apple in somebody's face. I can't remember the point, but it was funny. So yeah, New Day wins. Nobody cares. I'm sure they'll drop the title in a few months, and somebody else new will get their hands on it. Following that, we had a very bad blood match that had it's been going on for quite some time. The bad blood started at least 6 months ago, if not longer, where Jade Cargill was injured. She was tag team champions with Bianca Belair, and somebody like hit her with a car, and they found her on top. Yeah, and so she was injured, and then she came back at Elimination Chamber when Naomi was in the match, and she beat the living crap out of Naomi. And so there's this story because they found out that Naomi's the one that ended up
with the car,
injuring Jade. Yeah. So Jade and her,
it was a decent match.
I would say it was more of a squash match, which is where Jade beat the living shit out of Naomi, in my opinion. Yeah. And Jade looked really strong. She looked.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. Oh, yeah. And she came out. I think she was in it was very similar to like Wonder Woman meets the Flash kind of gear. But Jade Cargill can't do any wrong in my book, man. She's awesome. So
yeah. Well, and then we had. Following that, we had the United States Championship match.
Yes.
Between Jacob Fatu and LA Knight, which was, in my opinion, one of the best matches of the night.
Yeah.
It really was. It was one of my favorite matches of the night. And it was crazy. I mean, from what I read online and saw, a lot of people thought that LA Knight was going to continue that reign as United States champion. What I was reading on a lot of the comments and stuff like that. So to see how it ended, I was like, oh, so Jacob Fatu is being put over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so.
I mean, if he's gonna drop it to anybody, he's dropping it to Jacob. And the thing is that LA Knight, this is his second run with the United States champion. He had a moment where he had lost it, and he just recovered it like a few months ago. And it was kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, he lost it to Shinsuke Nakamura. He dropped it in almost like a squash match to Shinsuke, and then Shinsuke did nothing with it, and we were like, okay, this is stupid. And then LA beat Shinsuke again, and to recover the United States Championship. So to see that, people thinking that he was going to go on a run and beat Jacob at WrestleMania totally makes sense. But Jacob is in a point right now where he needs to be protected, because his character is. He's the werewolf. He's a savage, man. And he is the big dog on campus. And
he is one strong. I don't care what anybody says. That is one strong motherfucker.
He's a big boy, too.
Like, some of the shit he does for how big he is.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wild, dude. And so the thing is I've heard stories prior to him starting in the WWE when he was in the Indies that Triple H was worried, and the rest of the writing team in WWE was worried that he was going to overshadow Solo Sikoa, because Solo was starting his beef with Roman at the time. And this is before they brought on Jacob, but they had signed Jacob, that they were worried that Jacob was going to overshadow Solo, and Solo needed to look like the big bad, and so that's why they.
Well, there was some times in that storyline where he really was overshadowing.
Well, guess
and
what?
You could tell.
Yeah.
But then they would bring it back so that it wouldn't be.
Guess who wasn't on WrestleMania? Solo Sikoa.
Yep.
I mean, I think the thing is the inevitable showed is that Jacob's a better performer. He's in ring and on the microphone, right? And he's scary in that regard because he makes other people look stupid. So, LA Knight, losing to Jacob was the right call. Because LA Knight will have more runs. LA Knight is also he's also in his 40s, which typically they say, like, if you're in your 40s and you haven't won the title, it's pretty rare that you're going to actually win the big championship. But LA Knight is a company man. He's doing the company things. He's doing it the right way. And I think his future is going to be really, really good. People love LA Knight as it is. And for Jacob will be a world champion within the next 2 to 3 years, guaranteed. So,
100%.
Congrats to Jacob for winning the United States Championship. He'll do some good with it. Anybody's better with that belt than Austin Theory. Austin Theory holds the record. He beat John Cena at WrestleMania a few years ago. It was just fucking hard to watch, dude. Anyway, moving on to something that was hard to watch was El Grande Americano versus Rey Fenix. Little backstory on this. It was supposed to be Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio gets injured the night before WrestleMania on SmackDown. And luckily, they've got a new luchador in Rey Fenix. They're doing a massive deal with the lucha underground scene, which I believe is called AAA. And they just either bought them out. I'm pretty sure they just bought them out. But with that being said, you have Chad Gable, who is playing the role of El Grande Americano. And you know what? He's fucking amazing. He's so much better than Chad Gable. I love it. I've become a fan of El Grande Americano. It is a train wreck. The match.
It is a fucking train wreck.
Realistically,
the steel plate and the fucking mask
it's
thing
stupid.
And everything else. I'm like,
it's so bad.
Me being from being half Mexican, half Italian. Me growing up in a Mexican household, like when I first got into wrestling as a kid, and my uncles on him, like it was all about the luchadors, man.
Yeah.
Because I still am a huge Rey Mysterio fan.
Yes.
I was all about the luchadors, and it was always Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero,
Nacho Libre,
like all Well, Nacho Libre is the goat of all goats,
right? Okay? He's the best. He's the best luchador, dude.
But so to see fucking Chad Gable fucking dressing up, as an American,
it's such a train wreck,
luchador,
dude.
It's such a train wreck.
That part, it's hard to watch because of it, and then the fact that Chad Gable, aka El Grande Americano, wins.
That pissed me off the fucking most. I was like, let's still play, and then all of a sudden I'm like, God damn it! And don't put him over.
Rey Fenix has been on the WWE roster for like 2 weeks, literally just signed with them, and he is the Lucha brother to oh my God, what's his name? He's the Lucha brother to Penta. Which was on night 2. And they used to be a tag team, and I hope that they go back to being a tag team because the Lucha Bros or Brothers or whatever they were called, I'd love for them to have tag team titles. But El Grande Americano winning just shows the state of the WWE not caring about luchadors, dude. It's so fucked up.
It's so messed up. I'm just like, God damn it, dude. I'm like, because Rey Fenix I looked at some of his shit from before WWE. He's a stud.
Yeah, he's elite. He's
elite.
Yeah. So
it was a good match though. It was a pretty decent
I can't get past the steel plate thing, dude. That's every match he does.
It's like the second week in a row that he's done it. Or what is it? Like third week in a row that he's done it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like the whole Logan Paul with the fucking brass knuckles
I know.
thing at this point.
Well, the thing with that though is that's more believable, dude. It's way more
Then
believable.
putting a steel plate in and him
Yeah,
headbutting somebody, like
yeah.
it's gonna go both ways when you
Yeah,
headbutt. It's not gonna like come
exactly,
on.
dude. I don't know.
I would feel like you're gonna do more damage to yourself with that fucking thing in the
I just,
mask.
it
But I
was,
mean,
to me, it was a fucking train wreck. I was laughing the entire time, but that's what wrestling sometimes needs to be, right? So, I was okay with it. It was not my favorite match. I would say it was probably the worst match of all of WrestleMania.
right.
So that,
I apologize to our listeners too if you're hearing a bunch of raindrops. There is a massive storm that just moved through on us while we're talking, and I'm trying to mute my mic when Grind's talking so you don't hear. But
we're getting through
can't
it.
always be fucking
No,
perfect. But
we're getting through it. Following,
next up,
following that was actually a good one. It was the WWE Women's Championship match. Now, this got really interesting really quick because I will sit there with my girl and we will pick apart what they're wearing, especially the women's matches. I'm not sure why. I've always been that guy though that like if there's if they wear something stupid, it doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl.
I tear it apart.
I
I'm
tear
the
it
same
apart,
way.
dude. It's terrible. And so, Charlotte Flair had these leggings, and a few years ago, I never noticed it until a few years ago, but they're leggings that look like the skin color, and I guess they wear them to like hold everything together. But if you go and watch it, her legs are like fucking orange. And
Yep.
from just like at a glance, it looks very normal. But if you really stare, it's a bad look, right? Tiffany Stratton, she wore fishnets, which looked good. But these blondes, man, they have the crazy extensions, and all I can think about the entire time. My girl ruined it for me because she goes, oh, she got crazy extensions, and I'm like, well, I wonder what her hair looks like without it. And it's like, oh, geez, there's not much hair there, right? So these girls are, they put on a show literally in physics, like the makeup and everything else, whatever, cool. I'm not into it. That I came for wrestling, dude, and so but I want the girls to look good too. I want them to look like they did back in the day, and it's not the case, right? So Tiffany Stratton though, she's I can see why people think she's like eye candy and she's super pretty and whatnot. It's all the makeup, it's all the hair extensions, it's all the right. So you get past all that, you watch the match. The match is actually good. They're both very skilled. Tiffany ends up retaining her belt, defeating Charlotte Flair. But at the very end of the match, my girl goes, what happened to her mouth? And I'm like, huh? And I look, and she's like, I think she had fake teeth in, so you couldn't see her fucked up teeth. And I'm like, no. And so I started looking, and we're like pausing, and I'm like, dude, her fucking teeth are fucked up. Like, what happened to her teeth? And she's like, yeah, I think she wears like prosthetic teeth to cover her fake shitty teeth.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rewatch this shit now because I didn't even notice that.
Dude, she looks like a witch. It's terrible. Well, come to find out, afterwards I read an article or two, and she chipped like her teeth. Her real teeth, it is her real teeth, but she chipped her real teeth, and she looked bad. It was...
Oh, man.
So she got beat up, dude, and she ended up with like a bruise on her forehead and whatnot. It was a pretty physical match. I think there was a little bit of bad blood. Some receipts were thrown definitely in there. And then for her to, get teeth actually chipped and knocked out of her head, that says a lot. Charlotte Flair did not deserve to win that title. There was no reason for her to win that title.
No.
I guess it's a good thing that she's around to pass the torch, and that's exactly what that was.
Yeah, because there was no longevity for her to hold that title throughout this. There's
she's a part-timer.
It was a good match, though. It was a great match. I mean, for being almost 20 minutes, they kept the pace going almost the entire time.
That's the thing.
You know
when you don't think about the pace, when you don't have to think about the pace, it's headed in the right direction, right?
Right.
So it was definitely done really well. But that was the funniest part, was the ending. It had us like questioning everything. So I had to go to social media immediately and find out what was happening. And then by the end of the night, she had like fixed her teeth, like she had gone to
got her, yeah.
like they had like an in-house dentist, dude, which is crazy. So
I'm
yeah,
sure they need it.
Yeah, dude. Well,
That's what most people don't know is like it could take the one wrong move and you just lose a whole, whole mouthful.
Well, you gotta think, man. So the WWE and the UFC have so much money now that obviously doctors aren't even a thing. Like they're there, they're on site, they're they cater to these people, because these people are worth millions. So
yeah.
And then to the main event, man. We had the big main event of night one, the triple threat main event.
It was fucking great.
Oh my God, dude.
It was fucking great.
We had Seth.
The way they made that storyline happen throughout that whole night of that match. We
had Seth Rollins come out in a trash bag, and and then the lights went and then the lights went black, and he was white Jesus, dude. He literally had a crown on his glasses made out of barbed wire.
I was dying.
Yeah,
dude. I'm like, this is the most outrageous fucking entrance ever.
It was, dude. And then followed that was it was Rollins versus Punk versus Roman Reigns. Reigns walked out by himself, and Punk had the
Paul Heyman.
No, he had the wise man, but he also had he had the band. Oh man, I forget their name, but they sing the song "Cult of Personality" in living color, which I thought was great. That's the second time they've done that at a WrestleMania, so that was really cool. I enjoyed it. I love when they do live performances like that, and that song's a pretty cool song from the 90s. I believe it's from the early 90s. Paul Heyman walks out with Punk. Match starts out a little slow. There's some teaming up between Seth and Roman towards Punk. Nobody really likes Punk, because he's the bad guy, he's the outsider, even though Roman and Seth have their own issues. And then basically the big moment for me was when Roman decided, he was like, screw you to Seth Rollins, and ends up putting both Punk and Seth Rollins through those tables.
Jesus,
dude,
yeah.
I was like, that downforce, man, of those power bombs. Holy shit, dude. That was a big moment before the big moment, right? And so I do this thing with pro wrestling where I look at their finishers. I always go, did this guy do his finisher yet? Well, no, he didn't. So the finisher's coming at some point, right? And you can kind of see where the match is going based around that. Well, they had all done their finishers, and I was like, it's a matter of shenanigans. Like, what?
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck is gonna happen?
Leading it up to that shit was the greatest, in my opinion. The way they did it.
Oh my God!
All the time frame of when it happened a lot. So, if a lot of you have never seen this back in the past, there was the whole flip of where Seth Rollins hits Roman across the back with a chair, right?
Yes.
And they set it up so that Roman would be in position to get his revenge, right? And Paul Heyman sells this fucking thing. Sells it perfectly. My tribal chief, it's here. It's remember, it's your turn. He's right there. And I'm like, there's no fucking way they're doing this, right?
No, dude.
Like, there's no way they're doing this.
Yeah.
And then he goes to go do it. And the fucking shit that happened next.
Yeah, dude.
I was like,
Paul Heyman.
I saw it coming, but I didn't see it coming.
What's crazy is one of our listeners literally wrote us and told us what they had believed would happen, and it was happening. And this is like a week before WrestleMania, and I was like, no way, that would be crazy, right? And so as it's happening, I'm like, oh my God, this prediction's actually coming to fruition.
I'm like, where's this motherfucker in the writing room when it's all out?
Like, crazy, man. And it just goes to show how good of a writer that Paul Heyman can be, right? Like Paul Heyman is such a big part of the writing room, of the creative team. And so to see him create history because what you're talking about is, the Shield. You're talking that's like 15 years ago, dude. Like the fact that here you're watching this and you're just waiting for that moment and you're like, oh my God, Roman's going to get revenge, dude. It's going to happen. And then he doesn't, and you're like, wait, what's Paul, Paul low blows him and turns.
Paul drops to a knee, the slowest fucking drop I've ever seen. That's how I knew. It's like, I know it was coming because you can see how he's placing his body. Yeah. I'm like, he's so old at this point. I know. He's so big. It's like the slowness of how he got down.
Yeah, no,
and the way he had to hit and hold his arm up there.
And then as he's holding it up, he's rotating it like this, dude. It was great. It was so perfect, man. It was just what needed to happen. Nobody's mad at it. It honestly, in my eyes, it saves Roman's character and CM Punk's character, protects them.
Yep.
As big of stars as they are, this is one of the things in pro wrestling that is most important, is keeping the integrity of the character, together, even when they lose. And to make that happen was really, really cool, So Seth goes over, Seth wins at WrestleMania, walks out with Paul Heyman, aligning, they align together. And the foreseeable future is going to be dangerous for everyone else because
it'll be interesting to see what they do with the story from there.
Well, we're gonna talk about it because Raw has happened. I will tell you a little bit of where they're going with it. But before that, let's get into night two. Night two was in my eyes the inferior night. I felt like
really?
Yes, I feel like night one was just so solid across the board. Night two was good, but there were some matches that I
agree with you on that. Okay, now that you're saying that, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I will say the first match of the night for night two, me and the boys were talking about this as we were watching it.
It was good.
Throughout the night, the rest of them, the first freaking match of the night was Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley, right?
Yes.
In a triple threat match for the Women's World Championship. Fucking incredible.
100%. And you know what? I literally, I said it at the beginning of the match. I was like, the bummer is that Bianca doesn't have anything to gain. Rhea doesn't have anything to gain. And Io Sky has never won at WrestleMania. So the thing is even though I want Rhea to win, right? I'm a Rhea fan.
Yep.
What
guy isn't?
I know. Io is going to probably win, and she does. And Io wins in the way that Io wins, which is coming out of nowhere and whatnot. And she ends up like moonsaulting or something like that off the top ropes and taking the W. But I will say there were moments where every one of them shined. There was at the beginning a lot of acrobatics. It just showed their skill set. But they put on a show. And do you have the time for that match?
It was like 14. I think it was around 14 minutes, 14 and a half
minutes.
Because
it flew, dude. For it being,
but it seemed long as hell.
Yes,
it flew. But at the same time, it was like when I saw the time stamp on it when I was looking it up the other day when we were getting ready for the show. I was like, dude, that match seemed like it was way longer than 14 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, went so fast.
Yeah, it did. And I think it was the right decision. I just don't think now moving forward, I don't think, Io is a great champion. And the reason is because she's had a run as champion and she brought the title to Mania the year before last or last year. I can't remember. And she did nothing promo wise. So I
just feel like if you're not great on the mic, you're not a great in-ring presence, you're not great on the mic, you have to have all of that. Like when you look at the history of champions throughout the years of all these different champions, heavyweights, whatever, yada yada, the great ones always had one thing in common: they were great in-ring in their performance, they knew how to sell when it came down to feeling like they were hurt, all this other stuff, and they were great with their promos and great on the mic.
The bummer is now is that the percentage of people who watch it's so broad, right? So you got people from Japan watching who are rooting for somebody like Io, and then you got all the anime, what are they called, weebs or whatever, dweebs,
weebs.
You got all those people who are go absolutely, they glaze the shit out of somebody like Io, and I don't get it, man. Like I saw her I saw her when she came around last time, and my kids are like, why is everybody going crazy for this girl? Like, we don't even know who she is. And I was like, exactly. The thing is, she's not
acrobatics.
Oh no, in terms of, like, she's very skilled. Great, yeah. But the thing is, that only transfers so much, right, to the casual.
I couldn't follow her character throughout every show. I couldn't watch you on Raw. I couldn't watch you on SmackDown. I couldn't watch.
No,
you know what I mean, like.
No, and she's just who she is, and I have a feeling the run's going to be a lot like the last run, but hopefully it's shorter this time around. So kudos to every single one of them, man. It was a great match. Io wins and retains her Women's World Championship. Following that was the Sin City Street Fight match. I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you. This was my bathroom break match. However, I did catch their entrances. And Drew McIntyre comes out to Doom, the video game, which was as cheesy as fuck. And Damian Priest
comes to do a promo for the new game. That was all it was for.
It was so stupid, dude. And then Damian Priest comes out to Kerry King from Slayer. But the only bummer is that the guitar amp is not mic'd correctly, so you can hear some guy. It sounded like dog doo-doo. It was bad, and it was just not that cool. Kerry King was just like, he was headbanging, and Damian Priest would try to get his attention, and like he wasn't giving him his attention. It was fucking. It wasn't that great.
The match was fucking, in my opinion, was fucking trash.
Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna have if you're gonna call it a Sin City Street Fight, and it's gonna be a hardcore match, basically, is what it was.
Yeah.
It was the most boring fucking hardcore match I've ever fucking watched.
I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Then they try to do what pissed me off about the whole. You're trying to take. I understand. Okay, I understand that Damian Priest idolizes the Undertaker.
Yeah,
he does the fucking rope block hole in fucking Drew McIntyre's hand. Everybody knew what the fuck was coming. The tables were set up behind him fucking 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah,
everybody knew it was fucking coming.
Yeah, I think the bummer for me more than anything is when you have a hardcore match and it's at WrestleMania and somebody doesn't draw crazy amounts of blood and you call it a Sin City Street Fight match. Like, it's just not that interesting.
That, in my opinion, was the most PG hardcore match I've ever fucking watched.
Yeah. It was
when you call a hardcore match, you're bringing all this shit into the ring. Cool.
Yeah.
But you're not doing anything to impress me.
No, it was.
And I think that again comes from our era, though. That again comes from us watching.
But the thing is like even last year with Cody Rhodes and The Rock, you got The Rock drawing blood on Cody. You got The Rock crossing the line multiple times. And I understand The Rock can do whatever The Rock wants, right? It's a little different, but you have two massive stars in Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest, and you're telling me that you can draw blood on Netflix. You could draw blood.
Right.
Not just that, it just was not.
Come on, they show like softcore fucking.
I know.
Porn on Netflix at this point.
You know what? I just didn't have a horse in the race. I'll be 1,000% honest. And I thought the intros were cheesy, so I went to the bathroom, and then I came back, and it was pretty much over. So
yeah, it was only like a 13-minute match.
Drew McIntyre wins. I think it kind of protected both people's character, but whatever. Moving on from there.
Yep. Fatal 4-way match.
This was one of the best, if not the best match on the entire card, in my opinion. You had Dominic Mysterio versus Braun Breaker versus Finn Balor versus Penta. Now, this is one of those crazy situations because Braun Breaker is a breakout star. He is the nephew to Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump, and he is the son to Rick Steiner. And he's just a genetic freak, man. He is he's a
massive motherfucker.
Yeah, he's
Like, he is.
he's a prodigy for sure. He's going to do big things,
You know,
and
he's not built like Scott Steiner was. Like Scott Steiner was a whole different fucking thing.
yeah, he
Like,
looks pretty close, dude. If
it
you
was,
look at young Scott though, look at young Scott. He looks really close to him. It's bizarre.
I can see it. I can see it.
I've even
But
said in past episodes that I would not be shocked if it came out.
we were also in the steroid era back then.
No,
so it's
yeah,
not the
right.
fucking
But I wouldn't be
difference.
shocked if it was actually Scott's son. I'm just gonna put it that way, because he looks so much more like
And
Scott.
now you're starting viral shit.
I
Don't
know.
be talking that shit.
Right? We go viral for that would be the wrong
Right.
thing. But
It was a good match. It
yeah.
was one of the best matches in both nights, in my opinion.
yeah, I will say this.
I did not see you called this.
Yeah,
So we were texting back and forth throughout night two, and we're like making our predictions, and this motherfucker calls it
Yeah.
of what's gonna happen.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, dude, are you like ahead of me somehow? Like that you've already seen the ending?
No,
What's going on?
No,
here?
so the big thing is that Finn Balor was in the match. Finn Balor being in the match kind of pointed to me that Dominic has more heat on him. He's got everybody boos him, nobody likes him, right? And he is on the up and up coming, you know. Finn has had a moment in every element. He's a fine-tuned star, and his star is not going to grow much larger. Penta is new to the roster, so he's probably not going to win because he's only been around for like the last month. You got to put your dues in, kind of a thing. Either Braun's going to reach.
I will say Penta.
Yeah.
Just going off all of stuff has made a big impact in the past.
Oh my
month
God,
on the show.
dude. Yeah, he's
Huge impact. One of the better
yes.
luchadors that's coming out of that scene.
Yes, he really
Very
surprised
fucking
me.
great.
He really surprised me. 2 years ago, he fought John Moxley in AEW in a death match, and he had taken barbecue skewers. And
We were talking about this. Yeah.
Oh my God, so hard to watch. That was my first introduction to Penta. I was like, "What the fuck, dude?" But
Serial killer on
Yeah,
AEW.
right. But everybody had a case of why they shouldn't win the title. And Braun's case was that Braun had been holding the belt for a while, and it's time to drop it and head for bigger and bigger things, right? So Dominic was the only one that kind of really made sense. Where, what's Dominic doing? Well, nothing. Dominic needs to have a strap on him to boost his star even brighter. So that's why I went with Dominic, and sure enough, Dominic did it in the.
I love the ending.
Yes.
I loved the ending. The way it happened,
Yeah.
the way it finished was great.
Dirty Dom doing dirty Dom things, man. And
Fucking frog splash on double.
Yes.
Like people sitting there.
out of nowhere. That's the best part.
Dangerous as shit,
Yeah.
bro. Like,
Yeah.
but it was great.
With
And
the
pop, he fucking
I know. The night 2's pop was backwards. I don't understand. I mean,
I was like, hold on, you guys have hated this motherfucker
Yes.
for so long,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't there was the point where you wouldn't even let him talk on a microphone.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden he wins the Intercontinental Championship, and you are losing your fucking mind.
That's pro wrestling
I was
fans,
like,
dude.
what the fuck?
Eventually you want to see the
Like-
bad guy become the good guy, right? Like that's kind of the thing. Yeah, so Dominic wins, and he's going to be a great Intercontinental Championship. I think for his legacy, holding the Intercontinental title is a huge thing. So it'll be interesting to see how long he holds it for. I don't think it will be a Gunther run. I don't think it will be a Braun Breaker run, but I do think he'll hold it probably longer than Jey Uso did. So I'm going to say around 6 months. That's what I'm shooting for.
I can see that.
Following that was probably the most interesting question going into WrestleMania. Who would be Randy Orton's opponent? If you were following going into WrestleMania, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton had been going back and forth, and then Kevin Owens got hurt and legitimately got fucking hurt. And he's got to have neck surgery.
Neck surgery, it's like his two top vertebrae or something like that.
So
by
he
spine.
may never come back, which is crazy. I know Randy just went through that like 5 years ago, but I would say Kevin's a little heavier, so I don't know how that works when it comes to recovery. I know typically when you're in better shape, you recover faster, but when we're talking about vertebrae, it's a little different. So hopefully he does well. But going into Mania, the question is who is Randy Orton going to face? And out of nowhere, man,
It kills me.
I never saw it coming. Did you see it coming?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because you don't see someone coming from cross promotion like that.
No, God,
Like,
no, dude.
no. So I was like, when it happened, when I heard his music pop, I go, there's no fucking shot they're doing this, right? Like, how did you bring someone from TNA back over to do all this, right?
Yeah. Well, they have a deal with the WWE, which is
Yeah.
really cool, and I know that they're going to be doing more stuff with them, but
Fucking Joe Hendry.
yeah, dude, Joe Henry appears. Say his name and he
Say his name
appears.
right.
Yeah.
It's Hendry.
Yeah.
Were you trying not to say it? They won't appear in your living room or
Yeah,
your
exactly.
garage?
But he appears, and it was pretty iconic. The amount of pop that he got was
Oh, the whole damn arena. Well, he's that. So I just saw this on TikTok earlier today, like of him talk. It was like an interview he was doing of him talking how he came up with that song, right?
yeah,
And how they were talking about how he wanted to be something. It was something about Queen. He was talking about Queen and how Queen came up with "We Will Rock You" and
yeah.
how they were coming up with the BPM and everything, all this stuff. And as a DJ, I can appreciate it. You know what I mean? Of how he was talking about that. It makes so much sense because when you listen to his song and how people get into it,
It's catchy.
it is one of those songs. It's an anthem song that they're singing and they can sing along to and get into.
Yep.
And everybody in that fucking arena sang it.
Well, it's also
It was so loud.
it's also it reminds me of any jingle, right? Where he's become more than just like a pro wrestler. He's become like a figure, right? The stance that he does, the smile, the turn, everything just it's the whole character is just really well put together. And I would question like how long can you do this for before it gets
right
old, but he's
Too
been
much.
he's been doing it for a while now, and it's really interesting. Now in that match he took 2 RKOs. He did not need to take 2 RKOs, but he took 2 of them. And the fact that he's
second one being the most iconic.
yeah. But the fact that he was able to do what he did Randy was passing the torch, and so we'll see a lot more of Joe Henry as time goes on. Gary.
It cracked me up because of how he hits him with the second RKO. And I mean, the fucking comedic factor of it, of
I know.
Randy Orton doing his fucking
the pose,
around and poses. It was great.
It was perfect. It was almost like at that point it becomes almost like an homage, right? It's like like if you pull back the curtain and whatnot, he's not making fun of him. He's like respecting him, right? Yeah, I think that was definitely one of the highlights of the night for sure. That and that Intercontinental Championship match were back to back and they were great. So it's hard for me to tell which one I liked more, but I think the 4-way fatal just was really, really cool. But yeah, Randy Orton wins. He kind of puts Joe Henry over, in my opinion. And I think just Joe Henry being in that match was enough to put himself over, for people to be interested.
Especially for being an open challenge, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And coming from TNA, like you said, I mean, it's even though they have a deal with them and whatnot, that's a big deal. So yeah, it was fun to watch. Following that was not so fun, but it was pretty technical. Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. I like Logan Paul. A lot of people don't like Logan Paul. I think that he's super talented. I think AJ Styles is starting to look a little old, but he's very talented as well.
That was going to be my comment right there. Is like, thing about this match is Logan Paul. I've watched Logan through all his YouTube career and everything else too. Like I got into some of the shit that he was doing. Obviously fell off after the whole, what happened with him, and then, but the way that he has taken on wrestling and he really has become like a student of the game and become a technician and a fucking acrobat. Like he is one of the most athletic freaking people
Yeah.
I've ever seen. The shit he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was talking to Undertaker about that movie pulled off when he, jumped up on the top rope where he was talking about the ref like wiping it to make sure no oil on it and the moonsault off the top of the rope into the guys and you can see that shit he landed his knee buckled underneath him when he did that
Yeah. It's
and some other
crazy,
stuff.
dude.
But I was gonna make that comment. AJ Styles is definitely showing his age.
Yeah.
There were points in that match, even in the beginning of it, where it was so what's the word I'm looking for?
Stiff.
So like stiff.
Yeah.
Like in terms of how they were landing punches, how terms they were landing, like any type of move. I'm like, man, this looks like I'm watching like a third party like wrestling event in Des Moines like it I was like, this is bad.
Yeah, it's not. What it is they're out of practice, right? I mean, it's that he's older now, so it's not probably bouncing. He's not bouncing back as much. He's in great shape. They're both in amazing shape, but that only
Putting him
goes so far, right?
Logan, who's so young and so technical in terms of his moves and stuff and how fast he is. Like that's what made it look worse.
Yeah,
like putting against a kid that age that literally is.
Well, I mean, just to put it out there, like I don't know how many years ago it was, but there was a point where John Cena and AJ Styles were feuding, so it had to be at least six plus years ago, and they were feuding, and I remember texting my buddy being like, "Dude, this is one of the greatest matches I've ever seen," and now AJ looks stiff. John
obviously looks super stiff.
And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But it's just the time. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going, and people just get old. It is what it is. But
and the shit these guys put their bodies through. I mean, that's what most people don't. That's what a lot of people will talk about. How it's storytelling. It's all premeditated. Most of it's fake. We get that, but the shit these guys put their bodies
my God.
they're still athletes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Athletes.
I couldn't. I mean, I would do one thing. I'd be injured for life. So
right.
The thing with AJ is the question to me is what's next? What's left? There's nothing. He's done it all. He doesn't need to do any more. I think his legacy, he'll be always looked at for being a great TNA champion. And his time in the WWE was stinted because of his age. But I think he's had some amazing matches. He's the last match ever with The Undertaker. Even though that was like a cinematic movie kind of a thing. Yeah. It's still a legendary moment, right? So, I mean, the feud with, John Cena, I mean, AJ's done a lot. He's done a lot, and he's looked really good with it. So I think I don't know what's left. I hate seeing when they start looking bad. When they start looking and they start becoming part-time, it's just not a good look. But kudos to both of them, man. Logan wins. Logan's got a bright future. Not sure exactly what's in the future. I know that he wants a world title. I could see that happening in the next year or two.
I never see him turning babyface. I just don't ever see it.
Why? Yeah, why would he?
I just don't see it. Not only that, but just there's some people that hate him for being
he's
Jake Paul's brother, for being a YouTuber, for being
he's it's kind of crazy because he's beat Randy and he's really close to the idea of potentially becoming a champion. I mean, it's not too far fetched. So,
well, didn't he held the United States Championship for a second?
Yeah, he did. He also fought Roman Reigns during Roman's run.
I thought that match was being one of his first matches.
Third
match
ever.
Match was great,
amazing, dude. I said the same thing. That's when I gained respect because I was like, he kept up with Roman. Like that's wild.
It was at Crown Jewel, right?
Yep.
It was at Crown Jewel
2023.
2023.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite matches in Roman's run. I really like that match. And then we had the moment where Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to tell everybody the attendance. Got one of the loudest crowd pops. Stone Cold Steve Austin returned again, as he does every few years.
Rex's 4-wheeler.
Oh, we can't. Oh man! So it's worse than that though, because he's on his 4-wheeler, his ATV, comes out through the side. Doesn't come out through the beginning of the ramp. Comes out through the side curtain on the lower ground and has to drive up the ramp to go down the ramp to get to the ring. And it's like literally nobody communicated with him and just said, yeah, make a left when you go out there and you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. He misses the ramp, like totally misses the ramp, has to throw it in reverse to go up the ramp to then go down the ramp. And by the time he starts going down the ramp, he's going like 40 miles an hour, dude.
Right.
And he ends up doing one loop around the ring, and he's doing 15 miles an hour at least. He's going.
I think the one loop was enough.
Yeah, I think we all think that. And the second time around, he ends up crashing it. And immediately there's footage online of this girl. He hit the barrier, and the impact made the girl fall back. Well, with that being said,
I'm sorry, the woman pulled a fucking LeBron James.
Thank you. Because what I was going to say is
the way she fell when you replay this shit.
So
you rewind it in slow mo.
If you find the correct angle, you will see that it's a delayed reaction, and she does it on purpose. Nick Khan and Stone Cold both come over and say, "Are you okay?" And check up on her. I believe she probably got some free merch, some free photos behind the scenes.
I hated how people were like talking about, she was really injured, she was really hurt.
No, she wasn't.
The way that she wasn't.
No, it was super delayed. You called it.
Down, like it was literally like a LeBron James move, like where she was like trying to basically throw the biggest fake in basketball, soccer, wrestling history.
Yeah,
it was worse than a freaking soccer like ball. It was so stupid.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. He just came out to really tell the attendance, drink a few beers.
Staying Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Though.
He's still Stone Cold, man.
That motherfucker drank so many. That was a lot of beer for that old man.
Yeah, he looks great, dude. He looks great. He's doing the damn thing. Gotta love Stone Cold for being Stone Cold, right? He's the one guy. Like Hulk Hogan ruined his fucking reputation, but Stone Cold living on a farm, doing farm shit, taking care of his cats on the farm, and
him and
chicken.
Undertaker both both of them iconic anytime
they've also preserved their legacies by not doing stupid shit outside of it, right? I mean, you could almost say that The Rock in certain points has ruined his reputation, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But anyway, Stone Cold's awesome. It was a funny moment.
Yeah.
And that lady sucks. She's bad for wrestling.
Yeah.
I'll say it's it's not a co-main event. It was the match before the main event. The women's tag team champions. It was Lyra Valkyrie with a surprise teammate,
tag team partner,
versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, which ends up being Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch comes back, gets a loud pop, and they kind of squash Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. It was all right. Nothing crazy.
Nothing special about it at all. And that one for me was another bathroom match. I was just like,
The big thing, the big takeaway from this is Lyra Valkyrie's moment. This isn't a Becky Lynch moment. This isn't a Liv Morgan or Raquel Rodriguez moment. This is for Lyra. Yeah. So, yay. That's all I'm going to say about that. I want to move into the main event and talk about this because this is the one that everybody was talking about prior, going into WrestleMania. What's going to happen? John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Championship. Will John Cena become the most reigning? Will he get the 17th world title and become
will he dethrone Ric Flair?
Yeah.
That's basically what it was.
Yes, and the answer is Yes, he will.
Yeah.
And he did it in a way. You want to talk about being stiff. You want to talk about a match being too long. You want to talk about there being moments of like, oh God, like, why is this looks like they don't know what they're doing. There was a lot of that. A lot. There were moments where John Cena just looked like he was beating the living shit out of Cody Rhodes and really not preserving Cody's legacy and what Cody's done.
Right.
It looked like a squash at some points. There
was times where you could literally see. I literally watched at one point where Cena's literally you could hear him telling Cody to hit it, like the whole slapping him across, the chest slaps. I'm like, I don't know. It looked.
It was supposed to be on the level, I think, of last year's. And the bummer is that, and this is my opinion, Travis Scott coming out, we knew that more likely Travis Scott was going to be there. We knew that The Rock should have been there, right? Because the whole idea was
what the fuck happened to that?
Well,
that was the whole big story.
I'll tell you, there's what he said, what has been reported, and what I think the truth is. But with that being said, there were moments that were slow and they should have been pieced together better. Last year, everything flew, like there was a flow, and they just one thing after another. This would go, it was in waves. It was like ebbs and flows, right? Where it would, 1 minute it was great. The next minute you got John Cena on the outside and people are booing him and he's just walking around. You got another moment where, Cena's taken over. He's gave him the AA 3 times over, and he's just kind of sitting there laughing at the crowd. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, when is it happening? We know it's happening. Something big is going to happen. He's not going to just win in a clean way. And then, you get the belt or you get Travis Scott coming out, and Travis Scott took an hour to get to the ring. An hour, dude.
Oh, fucking God.
And then he decided that he was going to go in and, fight Cody Rhodes, which I was like, oh, he's going to get his ass beat. But then Cody allowed him to kind of like swing on him. And it really just, everything really, the character that you had built in the last year with Cody Rhodes, it kind of been beaten down and not protected. Like, we talk about protecting the integrity of a character. You didn't do that. You just, everything that you had built up with Cody was for nothing. It was for a part-time guy to come in and beat the living shit out of you. And the weird part was that there was no The Rock. The Rock was a very a big part of this story, and John Cena obviously coming out to literally just no Titantron, just
nothing. It wasn't nothing.
Just, you want to talk about lackluster in the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania. I get what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
but
I did too, and I was like, "This is."
I mean, it's more than just like, oh man, my guy didn't win. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I feel like the people who bought tickets got cheated out of this kind of a thing. So yes, John Cena gets number 17, but at what cost, right? And so you kind of walk away from it going, I'm glad John Cena got 17, just because I know that at the end of the day, it's what was best for wrestling. But the question is why wasn't The Rock there? And The Rock comes out on, I believe, the Pat McAfee show or something along those lines, and he basically said that he felt like at Elimination Chamber, or after Elimination Chamber, when the whole John Cena angle had happened, or it was at Elimination Chamber, with Travis Scott and whatnot, and John had turned on Cody, that The Rock's, the final boss, his role was done, that he felt like he had accomplished what was needed. You know what I think it was? I think that John Cena and the Rock have not seen eye to eye ever. And I think that The Rock had a plan going into year WrestleMania 41. He had a plan, and that plan had nothing to do with John Cena. And then John Cena announced that he was going to retire, and Triple H had to implement John Cena's plans, and the writing changed from the final boss to John Cena and the final boss working together. I think that's what happened. And I think The Rock said, you know what? You got John Cena? Fuck it, I'm out. Now, did it go down that way? Did The Rock say those words? Was it confrontational? Probably not. Probably not. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to the fact that John Cena and The Rock still don't see eye to eye for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so The Rock was like, fuck it, I'm out. I don't need to be here and whatnot. You got John. John he'll do a good enough job. And you'll see what you missed out with The Rock. You'll make people want The Rock. And that's what people, when they walked away from night 2, they're like, where the fuck was The Rock? So it's this weird story, because since then I've seen some reactions to it. People are pissed off at The Rock. But at the end of the day, you were pissed off at The Rock last year, calling, for Cody to win the title. And this year you wanted John to win the title. So the same Cody crybabies were the same people, cheering for John on night 2. None of it makes sense. The only thing that makes sense is the fact that John and The Rock have feuded in the past for years.
Yep.
They've never seen eye to eye, and I think that's why you didn't see The Rock there, because at some point somebody's ego got hurt. Or just The Rock is an evil guy and just was like, fuck this, I don't need this, and the bigger picture definitely was hurt.
Part of TKO, he can make whatever fucking decision he
wants.
But
if you think about it, though, he is a part of TKO, and he became a part of TKO when Cena was removed. His bloodline was at the top of the food chain, and it made sense for him to be there, right?
Right.
Now, Roman's not at the top of the food chain. The Rock thought, everybody wants to see me, right? They wanted to see me versus Roman. Nobody wanted to see that. They wanted to see that, but they didn't want to see it for the title. They wanted Cody to get his dues and Cody to win the title. So WWE fans are very fickle and very, opinionated, and they think that they are always owed stuff. And that's why I always, I always made fun of the Cody crybabies, because I wasn't one of them. I wanted to see what was a limited time, which was The Rock versus Roman. And because of the Cody crybabies, we never got that. We got them tag teaming last year, which was cool. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't the story that I wanted. It was the story that the Cody crybabies wanted, because they wanted Cody to win. So this year, knowing that John's going to retire and whatnot, people wanted to see John win the title, right? At what cost? At what cost? The cost was that you fucking squashed Cody. So
you literally ruined that. For me, it ruined everything that was built up with Cody and how he's carried the company now for 2 years.
And The Rock, though, think about it, though, man. Like it built, like, that story that you had last year with the final boss and whatnot. I think it was all ruined by John. And I can't say John
just for his retirement. It's like.
But who do you fault there? Because the thing is, at the end of the day, we'll never know if it's John can't work with The Rock or The Rock can't work with John.
Right? You'll never know that.
So
you'll never get the real story.
No, and the thing is like I said, he's already gone out and said, he felt like his story was done. And everybody's going, what do you mean your fucking story was done? You just took his quote unquote soul and you're supposed to be there. Like, that was the whole point, the story hadn't ended. What are you talking about? So they definitely changed creative direction. Why they changed creative direction, we will probably never find out. And if we do, I just think that John and The Rock are probably in such a good space where they're just never going to say it. They just don't really like working together. And this was the one point in time where they were the hands were kind of forced to work together. So, this will be short-lived, I think. I think it will last for a few months. And then I would not be shocked if you see potentially The Rock come back at 42 and face Roman. If that does not happen, if you don't get The Rock and Roman at 42, you're probably never getting The Rock.
There's no point in doing it. Yeah. There's no point in doing it.
So that's kind of that. John's run, that was his last WrestleMania. So he's only got something like 20 more appearances, and that's it. And that's not matches. That's 20 more appearances, and he's done.
And this is him saying that he is going to
Ruin wrestling
and bring it back to
well,
start it over. And
well, get this.
yeah.
So for the following WrestleMania, or I guess before we finish WrestleMania, do you have anything else you want to say about that match?
Not really. I mean, I think you covered it all. I was not a huge fan of how it went down, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it because I'm like, I get why they did it, but I don't get why you tarnished Cody's legacy the way you did.
Yeah. And obviously I think the idea is that Cody's legacy will bounce back because he's still a full timer and he can get the belt back and he can have another reign. I think we also need to see Roman versus Cody 3. I'd like to see that because we got it at 2 WrestleManias. They're now 1-1. We need to see that. So right. I think there will be a time and a place for Cody to have another reign. I don't think it completely tarnishes it, but it does tarnish the idea of everything you built, right? It allows at the end of the day you can.
That's what pissed me off the most. Yeah, is the way they did that,
and it shows that John doesn't. He doesn't go out. He's got to be the bigger star than anyone else.
I feel like his retirement season is the most selfish thing for him to do. The way he's doing it, the way they're portraying it for the rest of this year. It's going to be interesting how these next 26 or whatever appearances for him go.
Well, I will. Okay, so now that we've tied up WrestleMania, I would say, out of 5 stars, I'd give it 3.5.
I agree with that.
3.5. I feel
night 1 being the more superior night of it all,
which is really funny because typically night 1's not as superior, right? So I will say, last year, I'm not sure what I gave last year's WrestleMania, but I think last year's WrestleMania was much closer to a 5. I wouldn't say
this is like mid-range.
Yeah, it was good though. It was fun, right? It's like the Super Bowl when your team's not in it, kind of a thing. So walking away from that, we had Monday Night Raw, and realistically, there was 2 topics that need to be covered, and then we're going to get out of here until the next PLE. But the 2 topics that need to be covered are the CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns scenario. Yeah. Where does Paul Heyman go with Seth Rollins from here? And it seems like the Monday Night Messiah in Seth Rollins, the visionary, is back. He's starting a new faction of some sorts because both Roman and CM Punk came out, and they came out to fight and give Seth, a little piece of their mind, and it was going well. Roman was targeting Paul, and all of a sudden, a spear comes out of nowhere by a hooded man. Who is it? Boom! It's Braun motherfucking Breaker, dude. Braun Breaker is the new ally to Seth Rollins. And the new Paul Heyman guy. Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker are Paul Heyman guys. Braun Breaker ended up destroying Punk, destroying Reigns, and just showing how freaking beefy of a dude he is, man. He looks so much like a Brock Lesnar, man. It's crazy. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. That had been something that they had been talking about for the last few years. I guess Paul had a relationship with Braun for the last few years, and it was they've been kind of molding up to this point, I guess, behind the scenes. Yeah. So, and then the final point was to talk about this John Cena thing, and Monday night he comes out. The Rock is not there. The Rock is not present. Travis Scott is not present. Travis Scott has not made a statement. The whole Travis Scott thing, obviously, he was hosting WrestleMania. We get that,
right?
And he's a bad guy, and we get that. He's holding a fake hardcore title, but that's because he's taking on the.
It was for show.
Yeah,
it was literally for show.
He's taking on that Cactus Jack moniker, which is crazy because there's only one real Cactus Jack, and that's Mick Foley. But so no Travis Scott, no Rock. John Cena comes out, to the same.
Does all this talking.
Yeah, I will say this.
Of him walking out with no.
Yep, I will say this though. He comes out in the new Travis Scott's, which I really like. I want a pair, and they're like $500.
Yeah, they're sick.
They're sick. But anyway, it comes out and he basically says like, you just because you guys are rooting for me now, like I'm supposed to forgive you. I'm never forgiving you. I'm gonna ruin wrestling. I only have 20 something appearances left. Get ready to take this photo, kind of a thing. And he's like, you like this? And he's holding the belt up. And he's like, make sure you take your photo. And then, sure enough, man with a hood.
Fucking
yeah. Randy Orton.
Sneaks out from underneath the ring and
gives him a nice little RKO, nice little welcoming.
Oh, the
gift.
homage of him setting the belt on his chest too, and I'm like, okay, so what are we're not gonna get Randy Orton, John Cena again? Like this is like,
oh, we're getting that.
I know, but I'm like, I'm so sick of that storyline too.
But I'll tell you this. The nice thing about it being Randy is that Randy can put John in his place. Be like, hey, you know, you're not the last real champion, kind of a thing. You know, because he's not going to allow him to be. Just because he's that same era, he's still there and whatnot, and he's going to take it from him. And if anybody was to take it from him, I think Randy is the right choice. I don't think Randy will have a long run. I think Randy will probably have a 1 or 2 month run. But it's definitely,
and then get beat.
Yeah, he's a transitional champion, 100%.
Another pay-per-view.
Yeah.
There'll be another pay-per-view he gets beat at.
The biggest reason that Randy can be that guy though is because Randy's at 15. It's 14 or 15. So he's right.
Something like that.
He's right there. So he could I mean, they're gonna make it look for sure like he could pass Cena. And that's the reason, right? That is the reason. So John's run is limited. It's not as bad as I think we thought it was. But I will say overall, who gets hurt more than anyone in all of this entire WrestleMania card, the one person they didn't fucking protect was the one person they built up for 2 years, had to finish the motherfucking story, and they hurt Cody. So I don't know how I think obviously Cody probably takes 6 months off, returns at like Survivor Series or something, which I plan on being at because it's in San Diego at Petco Park. I really want to go to that. But anyway, I think Cody takes a little bit of a break. There's no reason for him to be there right now. And then hopefully he comes back and maybe he goes for the heavyweight championship instead of the undisputed WWE title, changes it up just a little bit. Maybe he's on he was on SmackDown, so maybe he's on Raw now instead. But
do you really see him go for the heavyweight title with him and Jey Uso kind of having like that?
I don't think Jay's going to be at the end of the day. I don't think Jay's going to be a long-term champion. I think Jay's going to be there no more than 6 months. No more than 6 months. I think you're going to have the belt change hands at least 3 times this year. For sure.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Because the thing with Jay is like, Jay's such a versatile character that you don't need Jay holding the title, and you don't need Jay proving that he's dominant, right? Jay, like, he's not a Roman. He's not a Gunther, right? He's not going to be, or he's not even like a Cody where he's dominant, right? He's a higher mid-card guy. And as long as he's in that higher range, he's going to do whatever he needs to do, and he's going to be freaking awesome at it. So, and he was actually I guess we'll just comment on this. I mean, I guess we can comment on the Becky Lynch thing too. This was the stupidest thing of Raw, was that Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria
lose the freaking tag team
right
titles
back,
after.
Dude, right back.
And
to
then
Liv
Becky
Morgan.
Lynch turns heel.
Yeah, and she turns heel. Which there's people talking out there. They're talking that she may join Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, and honestly, dude, that's fine. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that they're a couple, so it's like,
But flipping that tag team championship around that fast, I was just like, come on.
well, that's how you know it was just for Lyra. There's no,
Right.
it was to make a WrestleMania moment. That's all it was.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was really stupid. But the Jey Uso thing, Jey Uso was greeted by his brother and Sammy, and there were moments there where it was going a little long, and I'm like, dude, somebody's going to turn on somebody. And luckily they did.
Never happened.
Thank God, man. I hope I hope they don't turn on each other, because I thought Sammy was going to turn. I really did.
I don't feel like, I really hope they don't either, because the way they did it the first time with Sammy turning on the bloodline and all this
that
stuff,
made sense, right?
And then to come back and join back up with the bloodline, that storyline made so much sense.
Yeah. So,
and it was so good.
The one
for them to try to turn him again,
it would make sense though, like time wise, because like if I had to calculate it, I would say you're probably not seeing the bloodline ever, like probably not reunite for the next like 5 to 10 years. And the only reason I say that is because Paul's gone. So Paul being gone, you got you got the core group, and maybe they don't need Paul anymore, right? Like maybe it's a newer version, because you got Jacob Fatu and you got all these fucking guys, man. Like, why? There should be some form of the bloodline still going, right? And if Roman is the head of the fucking table, why is he still not? I don't know. We'll see what happens. That story can be revitalized at any time and fun for everyone. So and where the fuck is Solo Sikoa? That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
He was the one that was missed out on their cards. So with that being said, man, WrestleMania, that is our WrestleMania recap. It was fun. It was a good one. We will be back here soon talking about more wrestling, more mixed martial arts. Got some UFC coming up. Bare knuckle. Probably even some Jake Paul. He's his own sport.
That's boxing, but that will be one we talk about, because he's actually stepping up against a legitimate contender. Not contender, but legitimate opponent.
Yeah, I know.
Chavo Guerrero Jr. So we'll talk about that at a later date. But
the fact that we have to talk about that is crazy, but it is what it is, dude.
It's gonna happen.
I know. It's wild.
Than anything, because Chavo Guerrero
save it.
Jr.
Just what? Stop. Save it. Because I feel like, I could already, we could do this all night. Okay. With that being said, this has been another episode of the Lower Mid Card Fight Club podcast. See you guys next time.